Hey there. If you don't know me, I'm Mary. I travel the country in a little bus that's either blue or green, depending on your own personal color palette. It's blue to me, but I've stopped arguing with the green people because, changing people's minds is hard. If you don't know me, I apologize because this video is going to probably be a little more TMI than you should really have on a first meeting, but it is what it is.
Maximalist Minibus with Mary and Captain and you. Get on the bus!
This is Malaga Cove. That is a private club of some kind, but see down there, see the dark patches in the water? That's a kelp forest. I used to scuba dive here a lot, and now I like to just come and hang out. Sometimes I go down there onto the beach, but most of the time I stay up here because that's a really long path down, and I just had my knee replaced. Also, the view's pretty amazing up here anyway, so I figured I would just stay up here and talk to you a little bit. This week is a holiday week. Monday was Veterans Day, but I have not one but two different very personal holidays this week also. One of them is Ryder's Gotcha Day. That's the anniversary of the day I adopted him. It's been 1 year since I found this little creature at the Humane Society in Phoenix. I was pretty sad back then because I just lost Captain. And those of you who remember Captain, you know that he was my heart. But I'm so glad I found Ryder because he's not Captain. No one will ever be Captain, but he's a little weirdo and he makes me laugh every single day. I am totally crazy in love with him. The other holiday is today. Okay, 33 years ago last night, I had my last drink of alcohol and snorted my last line of Coke. So I'm 33 years clean and sober today. And I haven't really, trying to find a good spot here. Whatever, this will work. And I haven't really talked about it much. I've just kind of mentioned it in passing a few times, though I did give you guys some of the backstory in one video, which I'm going to put up at the end. But I'm not going to tell the whole sordid story of how far gone I was and all that. I'll give you the broad strokes of what happened when I stopped drinking. I remember when the light bulb first went off, though I didn't really stop drinking right away, but it was the morning after a night where I got really, really sloppy, blackout drunk, and I woke up feeling awful, mentally, physically, just totally full of shame, which of course wasn't the first time that happened. It happened all the time, and I never honestly imagined that it was even possible to stop drinking. I really didn't. I didn't know any sober people. I was in a band, and I was at clubs all the time, either playing or listening to music, and nobody was sober there. Well, probably some people were sober there, but they were not on my radar. The people that were on my radar were definitely not sober. So this particular morning, I woke up totally ashamed as usual on a couch in a house that I didn't really know, a place I didn't recognize, and there was this group of guys, and there was one guy with tattoos and piercings everywhere, and he was talking about being sober, kept saying the word sober. His name was Dave, and that was probably the first time I thought, well, if that guy can be sober, maybe I can too. I was not very self-aware at all, and I was super insecure. I held a lot of people hostage because of those insecurities, and I damaged some relationships that were very important to me beyond repair. There was so much I wanted to do with my life, and I was just totally incapable of doing any of it. There was a line I remember coming across in the AA Big Book really early on that said, "Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not have lived up to them, even though we would have liked to." And that one just really got me in the gut because, I had all of these principles and ambitions, and I couldn't carry any of them out or live by any of them, and that's why I decided to get sober. But I wasn't struck instantly sane when I stopped drinking. In fact, I probably got a little crazier because alcohol and drugs to some extent, but mostly alcohol, is what I used to regulate myself to the extent that I actually was regulated at all. So cutting it out, it sort of let like the dark genie out of the bottle. I just remember being deeply in mourning because honestly, up till then, alcohol was the best friend I ever had. Alcohol was always there for me. It got me through some incredibly difficult things that I don't know how I would have gotten through without it. It was probably the hardest breakup I've ever had because my relationship with alcohol, my relationship with drinking was really a relationship. It really was. I had to stop shooting for a little bit there because all of a sudden, all these people came rushing onto this little gazebo because there are dolphins. And then a family came that are visiting from England and wanted to take their picture in the gazebo. So maybe it's not the best place for me to try to shoot a video. I don't know. But it's pretty. Anyway, where was I? Okay, well, it wasn't until probably 5 years in, 5 years sober, when I just got really sick and tired of myself, and I just didn't want to be me anymore. And that's when I got more serious and actually began to seriously work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's when things started to change. Started to. Again, change was slow, still is slow, and I didn't do everything right. I still don't do everything right. But once the fog of alcoholism lifted, I discovered that I had a raging problem with food and that I'd been bouncing back and forth between anorexia and bulimia, which I guess I was in some denial about for decades. I finally got some help for that, but it took a long time, and I still struggle with that one. My sober life hasn't been perfect, not at all. I'm still insecure, though not to the extent that I used to be. I still occasionally screw up a relationship, though I think mostly I have evolved into a pretty good friend, you know. At this point, I'm always willing to help, but I have good boundaries. But some dark things have happened to me in sobriety that never even happened when I was drinking. I spent time in a psych hospital sober, and I've even been to jail sober. That never happened to me when I was drinking. But that's a story for another day. It's like this road, to be sappy and metaphorical about it. This road is all torn up. It's got all kinds of problems. See the sign? The road is constantly moving. That's because this area is undergoing a crazy geological event. See, the soil under this part of Palos Verdes is full of bentonite clay, and when the heavy rains came in 2022, they got the clay wet, and then the clay started to slide. First only like an inch a week, but then eventually like an inch a day, and it destroyed, not only it's destroyed the road multiple times, but it's also destroyed a lot of houses. I saw a video made by a local realtor named Jason where he explains what's happening here, and I'll link it up above if you want to know all the details, but you don't really need to know the details because I'm only using this metaphorically. But in the comments of that video, everybody was criticizing heavily the people who live here for building on such unstable land. But see, back when the neighborhood was built in the 1950s, they didn't know about the bentonite, and everything was fine until the 1970s, and that's when the first landslide came. And it is going to connect back, I swear. So after the landslide in the 70s, a lot was done to stabilize the land, and everybody thought, okay, everything's going to be okay. And it wasn't until 2022 that the next landslide happened, and because, see, the fix didn't work. So this road is like life, okay? It's a crappy metaphor, but it works for life. I mean, for my life anyway. When I started drinking, I was 11 years old. I was a bullied kid with massive problems, and I just wanted to be liked. And I found alcohol, and everything seemed good. You know, I didn't know that I wasn't on solid ground. Then my world collapsed. I got sober, and I thought that would fix everything. But then it collapsed again. And I think I've got it pretty well fixed now, but the road is still constantly moving, right? Okay, I guess this metaphor does kind of fall apart at a certain point, but I think you get what I was going for. Life happens. There's always something. You know, the difference is now when I get into problems, they are less likely to be problems that I made for myself. I mean, I do still make plenty of problems for myself, but they're much more likely to just be the problems of life. And those don't really scare me anymore. I don't feel the need to, you know, drown them. Now, instead of booze, my dog is what regulates me. I'm lost without a dog, so I guess I'm not 100% addiction free there, but what a cute addiction. You hear people say a lot of times, I'm a totally different person than I used to be, and I don't really necessarily feel that way. For me, it's more like, there's a David Bowie quote that he says, aging is an extraordinary process where you become the person you were always meant to be.
Don't worry now. It'll be okay.
If you had told me back when I got sober at 30 that it would lead to me becoming more me, slowly but surely more me, I would have run screaming from the room because I did not want to be me. Me was the last person I wanted to be. But now, with so much of that insecurity and self-centeredness and, you know, the bad behavior that it led to stripped away, and with so much of the shame gone, I'm finally completely me, pretty much, and I'm kind of happy about that.
In a golden hour.
When I was in my 20s, I had this picture of who I would be in my golden years, you know, my retirement years. I was sure that I was going to be an old lady sitting in a rocking chair on a porch watching life go by with a vodka and grapefruit juice in my hand. Well, look where I am. I'm not watching life go by. Well, I'm watching waves go by. Yeah, but I'm in it. I'm in life fully and completely. And I have true friends around me to replace that glass. And if I hadn't put down the drink, if I hadn't said that painful goodbye to my best friend vodka, I couldn't be here. And I'm so grateful that I am. Okay, this might not have been the rosiest sobriety story you've ever heard, but it's mine. It's true. And I'm so glad I'm here to tell it, and I'm glad that you're here to hear it. And if you hadn't had enough of my fascinating story, you might want to watch this video up here. It's from my artsy phase. But who am I kidding? I never really outgrew my artsy phase. Anyway, there it is. I'll see you over there. Happy holidays.